I'd like to conclude what I started to speak about yesterday. Yesterday I began to speak about the types of effort, the levels of effort that one needs to make in the practice. The three levels of effort that constitute ardent effort, or atapa. And first there is the initial effort, launching effort, to begin the practice. And second of all, the persistent effort, called nikama dhatu, that gets us to overcome difficulties such as boredom or pain when we've started the practice, but we haven't seen the results yet that we want. And the third of these is parakama dhatu. Parakama dhatu is the effort that goes up stage by stage until we reach the goal. It follows on this second stage of effort. And I won't really go into it because I want to complete what I was talking about last night. And I also want to speak about what I also said I would speak about the factors of one who is sure to realize Nibbana in this life. So to say very briefly what was covered last night, that the Buddha said that when one doesn't make effort in the practice, when one drops one's effort, stops making effort, then one dwells in misery because the kilesas come in and overwhelm one's mind. But on the other hand, when one makes the effort to observe the arising object, starting with rising and falling, eventually what comes out of our effort is courageousness. And following on that, there is sati, that is mindfulness, and samadhi, collectedness of mind. And when that happens, one can be said to possess this developed effort. And one who has this developed effort, aradavirya, the Buddha said that person dwells happily. They're happy when they're walking, standing, sitting, lying down. And the happiness that they experience is the happiness of the mind being separated and isolated from the mental defilements, secluded from the defilements. And this is quite peaceful. That was where I concluded last night. So when there's discomfort, when something which is hard to bear arises, one shouldn't observe it or note it with the aim of getting rid of it. And one shouldn't observe it with a dissatisfied mind. One should observe so that knowledge will arise regarding our mind and matter, which is the truth of suffering. So one has to observe with patience. And it is very important to have this determination and patience. When people have a low level of tolerance for physical pain and shift, then when something difficult like pain arises, if we do this every sitting, we won't be able to get over this and we won't progress in the practice. So in order to observe the object every time it arises in oneself without missing, to this making effort second after second to do this is called developed energy, or adavirya, and this is courage. So one has to be brave to making courageous effort is not in order to get rid of the arising feeling, the pain, but to know it. And this is what the practice of Satipatthana is for, to observe whatever arises in order to know it, so that Vipassana knowledge can develop. So we shouldn't have the attitude of trying to get rid of the objects. If we note in this way, when the mind one who notes in a courageous way, just trying to know the object. When one is observing dukkha vedana, pain, a lot, one comes to know its natural characteristic. Its natural characteristic, or its essence, is to experience or feel bad contact. I mentioned last night that bad contact are things like extreme hardness, extreme heat, extreme sharpness, and so on. That's an example of things that cause pain. So this is the essence of dukkha vedana, or pain, that it experiences bad contact. And when feelings arise that are hard to bear, I mean by that, when vedana arises that is hard to bear, one feels tired. One feels tired, just like one is carrying something really heavy that's too heavy for one to carry. So this is what dukkha vedana does to one. And one sees this when one observes pain. These are the things that one can know that are really true about pain. So that's why I'm saying this. And this is the function of dukkha vedana, to make the mind tired. So if one observes this dukkha vedana with courage, one will know how it functions. And one will also know how it manifests. It manifests as something that is torturing one. So many people know this already. When one experiences a bad contact, this experience is oppressive and torturing. So that's how it appears in the mind of the yogi. And when one observes uncomfortable feelings, one comes to know these things about dukkha vedana. So one who observes vedana so that he or she comes to see these things which are true about it is overcoming pain at that time. And initially, such a yogi, perhaps when there was discomfort, one would shift or change the position. But at this stage, one doesn't do that anymore because one's determination becomes good. And this is what the Buddha meant when he said that one who has developed energy dwells happily. Because the virya, or effort, comes stage after stage, then one eliminates the things which, the dhammas which cause us trouble, starting with sloth and torpor. Sloth and torpor is a quality which just gives up and it stops trying. So when one can eliminate these negative qualities from the mind, one dwells happily. And the happiness that one gains is much, much better than the happiness that those of us who live in the world of the five senses typically want. The happiness of good things to see, good things to hear, smell, taste, and touch, especially touch. So when a yogi has found this type of happiness that comes from Dhamma practice, he or she is no longer bored and feels good to continue practicing, and one feels fresh. Because one has gained the experience of getting the upper hand over pain. Even if the pain comes again, the yogi will never retreat. The yogi will make effort with determination. And in that case, the yogi's practice can advance a lot. So if discomfort arises, if one notes superficially, then as the Pali Vedana Pajjaya Tanha, feeling is the cause for craving. As this indicates, when one notes discomfort superficially, then what arises is anger and depression and other similar qualities. So in order that this doesn't arise again, one has to make determined effort, courageous effort. And that is the type of effort called aradha virya, or developed effort. It's also what the Buddha meant by this quality of atapa, ardent, being ardent. So when one applies this ardent effort, the kilesas, which are damp, this dampness of the mental defilements, it gradually dries up, gradually. And when they don't have a chance to arise, then they die down on a temporary basis. And this is the benefit that one gains during the practice. So only that high quality effort is called atapa virya, or ardent effort. And one who works to develop this type of energy comes to possesses it. And that's what the Buddha meant by atapi, one who possesses this ardent effort. As long as that type of effort is present, it conquers the kilesas, beginning with laziness. And this is what this second level of effort is called, is meant. That's what nikama dhatu, or persistent effort, the kind of effort that keeps laziness from arising. So when one possesses that kind of energy, one comes to know its power, that one can endure in the face of great discomfort when one possesses this type of energy or effort. And it's as though the mind becomes very sturdy. Just the way when a house is about to fall down, you put some supports to keep it from falling over, and then it's propped up and it can stay. The mind gets propped up and supported by effort so that it becomes very sturdy. Okay, so people who possess this level of effort, this developed effort, are able to make their practice continuous in a short time. And from that continuity of practice that is not missing the object, but being continuous, concentration and wisdom are sure to come in a very special way. So this is the level of effort called persistent effort. And when one possesses this, in the face of something that is overwhelming, one won't give up, but will continue until one has overcome it. So I want to just say that I'm talking about effort because we all need to apply effort. And there's these three levels of effort, and we should understand this. The beginning level, the persistent level, and when we've continued because of our persistent effort, it develops into a type of effort that just kind of never lets up. It keeps on going because one experiences the positive results of the practice and is just pulled along by the Dhamma to continue. Okay, so I would like to, in a way, backtrack because there are some new people. And I would like to say just very briefly some things about the practice that may be helpful. So in essence, what we are doing is to observe, to learn to observe what is really there as it is. So this is, so we should always be trying to observe. And basically, if one looks, one will see. If one looks, one will see something. Okay. So what should we look at? We should look at whatever object is apparent. These objects arise due to causes, and they are really there. So an example for this is how we make a fist. If we were just to make a fist without placing any attention on the act of making the fist, or open the hand again without making any attempt to be aware of it, then we won't know anything at all. One won't know anything if one doesn't pay attention to the action that one is doing. So one will only know, what will one know? One will know that one is making a fist, or one will know one is opening a hand, or one will know the shape of the hand, the form of it, or one will know its position, that it's open. And these levels of seeing are what we see when we, are what we would see. So hand is the form, or santana in Pali, and clenching it or opening it is its position, or called in Pali akara. So this is what people can know when there's not that much attention. Okay. So this is not the type of knowledge we're trying to develop. We are trying to develop yogi knowledge. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to try to go beyond the form, the shape of the hand, and we have to try to go beyond the position that is clenched or that is open. So I would like to ask the yogis, please, to try for yourself, try making a fist with your hand without paying any attention to it, and open it again without paying attention. So in that case, do you know anything about it? Basically, you won't know anything about it if you don't pay any attention to it. But if you try, if you clench your fist, clench it hard, okay, this wanting to clench the fist that was the cause for the fist to become clenched, that is mental. And because of this wanting to clench the fist, which does happen in a series, there is a series of physical things that happen. So if you try it carefully, some yogis will surely see that this stiffness, tension, tightness, these occur. So these things, this is what is really there. We can find out the things which are really there. Wanting to, for example, wanting to clench the fist, and the actions, the physical feelings which result from this. These are really there. And if we clench our fist really hard and keep it there for quite some time, one might feel, in addition, that it's uncomfortable. One might start to be aware of this feeling of discomfort if we keep on clenching for a long time. So these things are really there. The fact that we have the intention to clench is also something that can become apparent. So, at the time of the clenching, there are things such as tightness, hardness, pressure. And so in this example, there's the mind and matter, which occur together. So these things are really here. It can't be denied. So although these things, the wanting to clench the fist, and the physical sensations that happen, such as tightness, stiffness, tension, and the discomfort that also comes, these are all true nature, called true nature. And this is called in Pali sabhava. But we can't see these at the start of our practice. We can't see these at the beginning. At the beginning, we're still trying to gather our mind together. We're trying to collect the mind. And it is not easy to collect the mind because we have been letting it go all our lives until now. But one can't say that it can't be done. It's not that it can't be done. It's just that it is not easy to do. So if one does a task that is not easy systematically, then later on it will become easy. So we have to think about it. How can we get something that is very beneficial easily? We have to work at it. And an analogy is that we can't buy something valuable at a low price. We have to pay a high price for something that is high value. And only then are we going to be able to get that thing that is valuable. When we practice, the mind becomes clean and pure. And one comes to be able to see the difference between mind and matter, nama and rupa, and to be able to see how they are related as cause and effect, and their various characteristics. This is valuable. And to see what really is there as it is, stage by stage, is very valuable. In the end, one will encounter a true happiness that is guaranteed to last. And this is very valuable. So only when one practices and comes to see for oneself, will one know how valuable the Dhamma is. So this is by way of urging people to continue with the practice. And as has been mentioned previously, at least a few times, that one should understand, if we're going to do this work, wanting to make our minds clean and wanting to see the true Dhamma stage by stage and to gain true happiness, then first of all we need to understand the benefits of the task that we're doing, whether it's to a small extent or to a large extent. And basically, in sum, the benefits can be said to be purity of mind. So people may have heard about the benefits of the practice from hearing Dhamma talks or reading or by discussing. But however one has learned, what is important is to understand that to understand the benefit of the practice from a theoretical standpoint. So one can also reflect, using one's analytical ability, on how valuable the practice would be or what the benefits would be. So this is also another way of knowing. One can know by studying, one can know by reflecting also. And these two, in case you want to know the Pali words, Sutta-maya Jnana, that is knowledge that is born from learning, and Chintamaya Jnana, knowledge born from reflection. So although these two are ways of knowing, knowing theoretically or knowing through reflection, these two types of knowing cannot know true nature, the things which are really there. So what is able to know true nature is this knowledge that is born out of meditation, which is called Bhavanamaya Jnana. That's the only type of knowledge that can know things which are really there. When one has this type of knowledge that comes from meditation, one will understand the value of the practice and have faith. So that makes faith arise. And the desire to gain the benefits also arises when one has knowledge born of meditation. And one's desire to gain the benefits shouldn't just be ordinary, but should be keen and strong. Desire to actually gain the benefits. So one also cannot entertain doubts. Sometimes when one learns things in school, one can entertain doubts about the subject. But one can't do this in the practice. One can't think, is this real or not? Is this thing that I'm experiencing real or not? Is this practice real or not? Does it work or not? One can't do this in the practice because this gets in the way. So when one observes and then reflects on what one has observed, observes and then reflects, this doesn't work with the practice. Okay. So the meditators have only one task to do, and that is to put the mind on the body and apply effort so that the mind gets to the object and sticks to it. And we have to aim so that the mind has the object in focus. So that's all our task is. And doing that, the results arise later on their own. They arise naturally. When we are working out a math problem, first of all, what do we need to know? We need to know the method for working out the problem. We need to know whether we're using, if it involves addition, we need to know how to add. If it involves subtraction, we need to know how to subtract, and so on. We need to know the method used to work out the problem, and we need to work accurately. And later on, the answer becomes obvious. So one can't get the answer without performing the calculation. One has to work out the problem. This is not a situation where we can use a calculator. So Dhamma has to be done step by step. And one has to work out a math problem. Perhaps one uses calculators these days, but in my days we worked step by step. So work out the problem according to the method shown. Now we play the tape, instruction tape, for the yogis so they learn the method, and we also talk about it in interviews and during the talks. So if you work out, so when you're working the method, using the method that is shown for working out this problem called Dhamma practice, if you work out one step, in math, for example, if you work out one step, you have one piece. You've gone one step of the way to the correct answer. So when all the steps have been performed, then the correct answer becomes obvious. And when you check your work and you find out that your answer is correct, then you know that your method was correct. So this is what we like what we do in practice. So in working out a problem, we can't skip over any of the steps, not even one. So if we skip over one of the operations, then everything is going to be wrong. And yogis have to work like this too. Yogis have to put their mind on the body and not skip over anything. You have to watch what happens. And yogis have to work carefully, meticulously, and continuously. There needs to be faith and a true desire to gain the benefits. And one has to make this type of ardent effort that has been talked about. Only when one makes ardent effort will mindfulness or sati, concentration, samadhi, and panya, wisdom, arise automatically. They arise later on by themselves. So one has to look at practice as though one is working a math problem. So in the life we have, in this human life, what is important for everyone is to be a true human being, to be able to have a humane heart, and to, although we have human intelligence, to develop knowledge which makes one an exceptional human being. That is what is most important. And there really isn't anything more important than this. So people who want to gain these qualities, these human virtues, need to possess 5 factors. And these 5 are faith, number 1, faith. Number 2 is health. Number 3 is honesty, or having a straightforward mind. Number 4 is ardent effort. And number 5 is to see how mind and matter, which are related as cause and effect, disappear, having occurred. So if one is fulfilled with these 5 qualities, then one should simply continue making effort in the meditation practice, because one is sure to gain special qualities and special knowledge. So the first quality, faith. Now, people who are born Buddhist in a Buddhist country, they have kind of an inherent faith in the Buddha. They don't believe they don't believe because of knowing the qualities of the Buddha, the way we heard about when we learned about the 4 guardian meditations. They don't necessarily know these qualities, that the Buddha was pure and therefore worthy of respect, for example. They have kind of a different type of faith. And when we have faith based on knowing the qualities of the Buddha, this is a slightly higher level of faith. And as was mentioned earlier, for people who find it hard to trust in an individual, one should have faith in the correct path of the Dhamma. And I mentioned this in speaking about the quality of the Buddha, that it is well spoken, svakato, bhagavata dhammo. So this, as I explained earlier, this means that those of us who want to live in a pure way, to understand the true Dhamma, the Buddha said, just put it into practice and see. The results that come are consistent with the practice. So this is how the Dhamma is well spoken. And if one has faith to this extent, that the Buddha has faith in the Buddha, that he was pure, or faith in the Dhamma, that the results which come are consistent with the practice, this is sufficient. This is firm faith. Or, on the other hand, if someone has the simple understanding that if one does something good, it brings good results. If one does something bad, it brings bad results. This too is sufficient faith, to undertake the practice. One has to have faith in this way. And having faith, really knowing the benefits of the practice, and then one has to have enough health to do it. So that's the second thing that one needs. One needs health. Nowadays, there's virtually no one who is completely healthy. But if one has to be completely healthy in order to practice meditation, then one would go one's entire life without practicing. So what Sayadaw U Pandita said that is, he thinks if one has enough health to be able to sleep and to be able to digest one's food, then one can be considered healthy. So although one is not 100% healthy, one has enough energy to do the work of the practice. So this is a relative guideline. It is not hard and fast. It is not an absolute guideline. This factor of health has to be present. So one has to have both faith, this type of faith, and health. So the third quality is that one has to be straightforward. One's attitude should be straightforward. And that means that one has to be honest. So human beings are not completely free of faults. And the difference between all of us is that some people have more faults and some people have few. So, but basically everyone has some faults. Well, when one has done something wrong, some people worry that others are going to find out, and they try to hide the wrong thing that they've done. So this is deception, in Pali called Maya. And this is something that people who are not honest do. So one has to nurture the courage to avoid what is wrong. And if one has done something wrong, one should have the courage to admit it. So that is someone who is free of this deception or Maya. And another aspect is that sometimes people pretend to be something that they are. People pretend to have qualities they don't really have. And because they want others to think highly of them. And this also is a quality of people who are not honest. Pretending one has qualities that one doesn't, so that others will think highly of one. This is called sateya, and we shouldn't do that, basically. So one has to be free of both these qualities, free of deception and free of pretense. And if a person is free of these two qualities, that person is said to be honest and straightforward. And when we're meditating, this quality of honesty is very important because we need to communicate about our practice. So one has to just explain what happened and not what one imagines. And this is very important. So these three qualities, faith, health, and honesty, during the early part of the practice, when a person has these qualities, it's easy for the teacher to teach. It's easy for the teacher to give instruction. And if these qualities aren't present, it's not easy to teach. So, and when someone has these qualities a little bit, then it's a little bit easier to instruct the person. If the person has these fully, faith, health, and honesty, then it's quite easy to instruct. So this also is important. So in order to be in good shape for receiving meditation instruction for the teachers, the yogis should have faith and health, and health as much as they need to do the practice, and one should have an honest attitude. So this is very important. And when one works, one should do so honestly. When one reports, speaks about how one works, one should speak honestly. And when one receives instructions, one should receive them openly, listening carefully. So this is very important for the yogis. So the fourth and fifth qualities that one needs, if one is going to realize special Dhamma in this lifetime, if one is, first of all, the fourth quality of ardent effort. On one's own side, one has to try thoroughly. So one has to make effort to apply the practice. And in the early part of the practice, this is mostly our mind telling us to do it. It's not that we can actually do it, but we have to keep on telling ourselves to do it. And this is to, from the time we wake up, all one's waking moments, we have to make an effort to observe the arising object. But as I said, that in the early part of the practice, really one is telling oneself to do it, but one isn't able to do it yet. We have to try every second of the time. So one has to try every second of the time to be observing. Try thoroughly and work continuously. So that's all the job. That's the only job the yogi has, is to make effort in the practice and to aim. And if one tries, one will automatically gain purity of mind and will come to know the difference between mind and matter. One will come to know how mind and matter are related as cause and effect. And one will come to know how this mind and matter, which are related as cause and effect, arise and then pass away. So if one comes to know this, one will feel very satisfied. There will be piti or joy and sukha or happiness. So these arise. But if they arisen, one has to note them. So when one comes to see how mind and matter, related as cause and effect, arise and pass away, there's satisfaction, there's joy, happiness, and one has to note them, but they're very attractive. So one has to understand that if these have arisen, there are better things still to come, and one should just practice continuously. So at that time, the yogi has reached the stage of trying thoroughly, and they also they've reached the stage of trying thoroughly and of seeing how things arise and pass away. So that it completes the factors that are needed, just these 5: faith, health, honesty, thorough effort, and seeing the arising and passing away of phenomena. So these are called the 5 factors of striving, called in Pali Padhaniyanga. And if all these 5 are present, then just continue to practice, because a person who possesses these will gain special Dhamma in this very life. It's guaranteed. So the Buddha talked about how to make our minds powerful enough to be able to see what is really in our beings and to see it, how it arises and passes away. But I do not have time to talk about this tonight, since I'm already well over time. So it will have to be a topic for another day. That's all for today.
sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.